Okay. Well, I have the old one. Christina, could you go on my printer and pull up the sheet that's on the bottom?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start our meeting. We'll do the COVID update, then I have a few things I need to read. Remember?
All right. For COVID, our numbers this week, we had 144. It was up one case on the records. And for the Suffolk County's rolling, average 7-day, it was 1.9%. Last week, it was 2.2%. So we are continuing to trend down. You may have heard that the governor is doing away with the school, the mandate for masking up at school. So that starts tomorrow. And along with that, the Fit Center then will be back to normal operations. We won't have any limitations on the number of people who can go. Masks are optional, and we will not be checking vaccination cards. And workout programs are going to be back to normal. I checked in with the senior programs and everything is open, including driving for shopping purposes. That had been one of the things that had been shut down during, that heavy, times of COVID. So now that's available again. You still need to wear masks in the car. The senior programs have all been open. If you're not vaccinated, they ask that you mask up. And nutrition program, they are asking for people to stay masked until they're seated at the tables, and they're still doing some social distancing. So that's the COVID update. And I was going to say, since the mandate for school kids has stopped, do we want to continue with weekly COVID updates or only?
I would think we'll do it as needed.
Mhm. Yeah.
If it upticks again.
Yeah. I'll continue to check the numbers weekly, but.
I just wanted to remind everyone, because last week we said it, but the town board work sessions and town board meetings are open to the public without the mask or vaccine requirement. So that's also,
And committee meetings, if we
And
start
committee
again,
meetings.
which is another conversation.
We had taken that away once the mask mandate went down.
Isn't
Mhm.
vaccine requirements gone?
yeah, they're not
Yeah,
checking
yeah, that's
Mhm.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
because
Okay.
the governors
Yeah.
hold both the masks and the requirement for checking
Mhm.
vaccines. So
Okay.
that's what it is.
We can still do it if we want. But
If we
Yeah,
want.
we can always be
Be
more
honest
Okay.
with it, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wear a mask.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Good.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay. Chief, anything you want to add?
Nope, Amber covered it.
Okay, good, thanks. Okay, I have two issues I need to discuss. The first one, yesterday we had a Water Advisory Council meeting and we didn't get too far into it and we were Zoom bombed, which is the new technology that's out there because of Zoom. And it was pretty disgusting, quite honestly. Christina shut the meeting down right away. Then we went back into the meeting and the bomber got on before one of the members of the committee got on and they used his name and it happened again. So we shut down the meeting again. So we're going to change the way we do things with Zoom. And I'm going to read it. Today, we were making some minor changes to the way the town hosts public meetings through the use of Zoom. In the past, we didn't post links to the town website, but participants had to request a meeting from the clerk. This is in the very beginning. However, the state and county recommendation was to have these meetings to be as close to in-person meetings as possible. Therefore, this step was somewhat criticized. As Zoom bombing became rarer, a few months ago, we decided to start posting meetings on the website, which was until yesterday worked pretty well. The public was able to access all links at their convenience. They didn't need anyone's approval to attend the meeting, and they can join the meeting at any time. After initial setup, this also decreased the workload internally. However, it makes sense that meetings with publicly posted links are more prone to Zoom bombing. The biggest risks posed to the town are the users that are not properly logged into the Zoom account and attend the meetings under generic names such as Jane's iPad, iPhone 876, and many other unidentifying names. To help the town protect the integrity of public meetings and diminish the ability to disrupt these meetings, all meetings will have a waiting list enabled, where attendees must disclose their name and the host will be able to rename them if necessary. Ideally, to speed up the process, the attendees should join the meeting with the proper username, displaying first and last name. Additionally, we ask all public attendees to turn off their camera and stay muted during the meeting unless prompted to join the discussion. We ask the public attendees to familiarize themselves with the virtual hand raise that's on Zoom to participate in the discussion. The town will continue to review this policy in order to enhance public participation without disruption. And thank you for your assistance and understanding. And it goes to say you can come to the meetings. I mean, the Zoom is a great convenience, but I got it. We got a notification from NYMER, which is the municipal insurance company statewide, that is giving warnings of not just Zoom bombing, but hacking and ransom and all other things going on right now. And some of it has to do with what's going on in the Ukraine, and some of it doesn't. But we've taken steps to protect the town. We have insurance. We have 3 backups so in case of some type of ransom. But we are just being very aware. And I sent out to the board last night. Maybe I'm being overcautious, or am I thinking too much? But I think it's better to be safe than sorry. So the Zoom has been working very well for us. I think it's a great way for people that can't get to the meeting, whether they can't get here for some reason, or they're out of state or out of town. But we're going to have to tighten up and make sure that never happens again. We hope it never happens again.
Yeah, just one comment. On a scale of 1 to 10, yesterday's was an 11. It was the worst thing you can possibly imagine. It was very serious. We did alert the police department immediately. So the police department was alerted. Hopefully, through investigation, something can come about it, but it wasn't a very pleasant thing to put some people through. So I'm sorry. We apologize for all that, but we're being extra cautious. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So that's it with that one. The next one is a little more involved. The town board and I discussed whether we should address this, and some felt we should, some felt we should let it ride, but I'm going to address it. I'm going to read it because it's easier for me. I got a call this week from a friend of mine while on vacation in Florida, whose opinion I value very much. He is intimately involved with the proceedings at Town Hall. He mentioned that he doesn't really read the reporter on a regular basis, so he took the last 4 issues with him to catch up. He said to me that if he hadn't been following meetings, either on Zoom, YouTube, or Channel 22, he would think the town government was in total chaos. Those were his words. In his words, the reporting wasn't accurate, and it was obvious to him that the paper was trying to stir the pot rather than accurately report the facts. Last week's editorial stated that the town board never considered the appearance of a conflict of interest when appointing Stephen Kiley. I'm not exactly sure who they asked about that, because from the moment we first interviewed him, we felt that his work with the Solovey family, which he informed us of in the very first meeting, would most certainly have the appearance of a conflict. When all the interviews were completed, the board felt that Stephen was, hands down, the most qualified candidate. In fact, the main topic of concern was not that there was a conflict of interest, but the fact that there definitely would be the appearance of a conflict. Since his hiring, he has been the topic of numerous letters to the editor, the subject of the most recent editorial, as well as a full-page ad that was factually incorrect and which should have been screened by the reporter before it was published. I'm not sure really what's going on in the town, but it seems obvious that there are people that are not happy with the town board. They think we're incompetent. They think we're not doing a good job. And I would just remind everybody that 4 of us were elected 3 months ago. And I think the people spoke when they elected us. I think to a person, everybody has the town's best interest at heart. I don't know what other interest there would be, why you would be on here if you didn't have the town's best interest at heart. And I'm concerned, quite honestly, Patrick, you're here. I'm concerned about the Water and Zoning Committee. I don't even know why that was formed. We have the Shelter Island Association. I think they should be part of that. We have the Friends of, or the Group for the Water for Shelter Island with the Nature Conservancy and that, all those groups. I don't know why we need to form a group. It seems like a lot of people are trying to set our agenda. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. We will never govern by committee. I mean, we were elected to do the job. We listen to everyone. We are as transparent as any board I've witnessed in my lifetime here. And that's all I'm going to say. Stephen, did you want to?
Yeah, if I could just make a quick statement. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and the rest of the board for your support. To start, I want to thank Bob DiStefano for being a great help and a valuable resource during the transition. He's a great guy and a complete and utter gentleman. I applied for this job because I felt I had the skills and qualifications and experience to help the board provide for, preserve, and protect this island that my kids call Special Island. My in-laws have owned a home on Shelter Island for over 40 years, and ever since I started dating my wife, I've come to know how special this place really is. As I've said, I have an open door. I'm also an open book. So if anyone wants to know my qualifications, I will provide my resume. Just ask. And despite what has been insinuated, my complete allegiance is with the town. Further, I have advocated for the revival of the Board of Ethics from the start of my appointment. In a small town, potential conflicts are inevitable, whether business, organizational,
Okay.
familial, or friendship,
Oh,
or even the mere fact of being a neighbor could potentially be an appearance of a conflict. If the town employed the mere appearance of a conflict standard, then it would be impossible to fill all of the extremely important committees and boards that serve this town. And a fair process to determine whether those conflicts are indeed actual is needed. I look forward to assisting the board in navigating the challenges ahead and in keeping Shelter Island special. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
I just quick.
Yeah.
First of all, I have to applaud both comments from the supervisor and from the town attorney. I think you've hit the nail right on the head. I think it needed to be said. And thank you very much for saying it. That's number one. Number two is I am the only person that wasn't up for election. So the 4 people that I share this podium with were all elected by the people here with the idea that they created a platform, they ran on that platform, they're trying to execute that platform to the best of their ability. So I think we have a strong board. I think that's if we can be criticized for one thing and one thing only, that I will accept, and I'm just as much guilty of it as anybody, is we're biting off an awful lot. Is that we have taken on a lot of responsibility here. I'm putting in hours now in my 7th year on the town board like I've never put in before on my first 6 years. And I wasn't a slouch my first 6 years either. But and my colleagues are the same way. This is an enormous undertaking. Things that needed to be done, we're trying to get done. We just asked for one thing: the cooperation. We welcome feedback, constructive. Keep it constructive, keep it positive, but we're not infallible. We're not infallible, and we are more than welcome to take on on constructive criticism. So I just thank you. Let's work together, and let's attack the priorities that we have established here for 2022, and let's try to go get them done. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Before we get started, Christina has 2 people in the waiting room, but one of them does not have an identifiable name. So Christina, you can let them in and I'll ask them to identify themselves.
Is that safe?
We will hope
We'll
so.
find out.
We have, I'll wait till their audio is connected. But for the rest who are there, I know Anton Borovina, you had your video on. We're having everyone keep their video off and asking that everyone stay muted. And if you have a question, to raise your hand in the reaction
So one of
section.
them's Al Loretto.
Yep, so Al Loretto, we can rename. And then iPhone is still connecting, so I don't think they can hear yet.
Okay, yep.
Christine, am I a co-host now?
You are, but then,
Okay, all right, because I just saw Julie Lane coming in.
yeah, but I.
Yeah, iPhone is still.
Thinking.
Still,
I think I'd rather wait till they were on
I know,
to avoid a repeat of yesterday.
yes.
We got time.
Mhm. Yeah, amazing. 2 years in, we're still navigating this. Since iPhone is still connecting to audio, Christina, maybe take them out and let them come back in. And when I see them pop up, I'll pause.
Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is
Moorings.
the title is moorings. And what we're trying to do here, we asked John Needham to join us as chairman of the WMAC, and Peter Bielbig, who's the Bay Constable and works closely with the town clerk and the WMAC. We're looking to see how we can better our process, what we're doing. We're just going to begin the discussion here. Then we're going to ask John to bring it to the Waterways Management Council and, come up with their ideas. So BJ, you want to walk us through?
I do. Christina, when you get a chance to, I know she's security and yeah,
I think she needs another monitor.
she does, and another set of hands. So Christina's going to put up a flow chart that I fumbled with last week before our internet went down. It's been an exciting week in the land of the web. Anyway, so this flow chart that will be coming up is the purpose of doing this was to try to sort of, first of all, clarify what I envisioned would be a better process, and to also, in an effort to get the disparate groups that are involved in the mooring process here at town to all be on the same page, because that's important, the clarity of communication. So that's what this is about. And it just is outlining a new, not even a new, an adjusted and I hope improved process for going about a new mooring or a mooring renewal. I think yesterday it was mentioned, Jim brought it up, that it's sort of like the parking permits last year. This is an effort to streamline the process, make it easier for the public, but also make it more efficient here at Town Hall in terms of records. So that's really what this is. That's just the.
And the end result of that, by the way, was very positive.
Yeah.
The parking situation, you go online, places closed from Saturday afternoon and Sunday. If you happen to come here, you could still go to the town beach. There was availability. There was a tracking system. We got to know exactly how many passes being issued, where they were being issued to, and revenues increased dramatically. So it became more efficient, better use of the clerk's office. And, we tried something out and it worked. And this is what we're trying to do in this vein as well, because the mooring situation is complicated. It's cumbersome. It's when you talk about 700, 800 moorings out there, there's a lot to deal with, and there's a lot of pressure put on the committee. So this is an attempt to kind of streamline the process.
Right. And, number one here, in my view, is to improve the health of the database that we already have. Let's have a good, clean database, know where the moorings are, know where people are in their process in terms of applying, where is their application at, what data is missing, what data, it can get, when you have multiple applications going at once and it's going from the town clerk to the committee and back to the town clerk, or maybe the WMAC clerk is handling it because it might be easier in an instant, that is just too confusing, I think, for everybody. So this is an attempt to just make that smoother. And I also think it'll make renewals initial application is the same difficulty for the applicant, no matter what. You have to come up with all the paperwork and the photos and all of that. Well, that won't change, but you'll be able to do it online. That might be easier, but renewals are significantly easier online. The final little piece here is this company, Online Moorings LLC, will maintain a wait list for us. So Dottie's maintained the wait list for decades. I just know back to the other century. And so what we'd like to do is have that come online too and be, you could look at it. So if you're waiting for a mooring, let's just say in Deering Harbor, and you can look at the wait list and see, oh, that's probably a few years away. Maybe I'll apply for one in Cockles Harbor in the meantime. Or I'm at the top of the list. Maybe I'll just hang on another year. I think that would be a real public service. So that's another thing in terms of this process with that I think.
And
can be
by the way,
helped.
just be more visible to the public.
Yeah.
And we have nothing to hide. So,
Right.
if that's knowledge that you should be able, you're on a waiting list, you should know where you are on the waiting list.
Right.
So it's just being a little bit more out there and
Exactly.
accessible.
And billing,
Yeah.
there's a billing aspect to all of this, but especially waiting lists. And again, that becomes automatic once it's online. Also very good for the town's point of view. Maybe the public won't love it, but
Dottie's
it
got her
is
hand
good.
up.
What's that?
Dottie's got her hand up.
Oh, hi Dottie. Sorry, I could just babble on. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't always work because in Deering Harbor, it goes by the size of the boats and so forth like that. It doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, we have somebody right now.
So,
Now that you brought this up, Dottie, we have a riparian person who is actually the last one on the list, but he'll move
well,
up
his
because
name
he
is
was very high.
written last on the list, but he moves to the top when it's given out, say.
Right, exactly. So, you're absolutely right. This doesn't, I'm so glad you said this because I would have forgotten to say that, which is it doesn't eliminate the need for a human being
Correct.
to
Right.
look at it. It just does not. But at least it's there for all of us to see. And then, like I said, for the public in terms of their decision-making process, it probably will ease it a little bit anyway. But you're right, it's not a cure-all. No. So anyway, I think that's it on the moorings, the new process. I would love the WMAC at their next meeting to weigh in on this and we'll get closer to enacting it or not enacting it, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Making it so. So finally, with moorings in general, the WMAC for years has really struggled with a few aspects of the code. Struggle maybe is long, but too much interpretation, too much. I think a lot of things have changed too since whatever it was enacted. So it's time. And Bo started, great. I'm almost through, going through just from my knowledge. The WMAC, I think we should have a meeting as well, where it's point by point by point. Let's just go through it. I've looked back on minutes and seen where they've said, oh, this is not clear.
Right.
And we'll use those minutes as a foundation, but I think that we really need we need a whole meeting to just devote it to going through the code and what their suggestions are for making it better and more responsive. The other thing is, what I'm doing is comparing it to other towns. Not that the other towns have, all that going on, but it's nice to know what sort of a regular habit is, and to try to stay within regular habit or usual practice.
The other thing I think we talked about was maximizing the Bay Constables,
Yes.
bringing them into the picture.
Yeah.
Peter Reich, before I got here, he used to do a lot of this stuff himself. But, we have Bay Constables. We talked about, we had a meeting with Chief Reed. Chief obviously is in charge of the Bay Constables. We're looking to take that responsibility and share it with them. And they could go right to the grid site, by the way. They could pinpoint these things more accurately based on, the size of the boat, the navigable channels, boat swings and everything else, depth of water that's required, all the things that, sometimes you can't see on a map.
Yeah.
So that's a very positive thing by bringing them involved in it.
Right.
Dot,
Yeah. Another point to think about is how often are the Bay Constables going to be able to check on these applications? Because we
Yeah.
do these 12 months of the year and we don't want them to pile up where we go to a meeting and have 16 mooring applications in one meeting. We want to keep them going smoothly and, as they come in.
Dot, I think the
So
feeling is they're just going to be the eyes and ears on the water for us.
Yes.
And they'll verify,
Oh.
you issued a specific spot. They'll go out with the GIS and make sure that's where it was actually installed where it's supposed to.
Well, you
And if
got
there's
like on the renewals, the Bay Constable reviews. So everything before we renew it.
Right.
Yeah. And to make sure the boat hasn't changed, because that could be significant for the
Well,
neighboring
we check
boats.
on that because we have to have an up-to-date registration before we issue anything.
Yeah, I'm not going to cast aspersions on the public here, Dot.
Okay, I just want to make sure you take all
But
this.
some people might
consideration.
put a different boat on there.
Well,
Yeah.
if they're renting it,
That's
they
what the
could,
Bay Constables will check.
yeah,
But Dot, all good points I may add, because to be honest with you, we do operate 12 months a year for the
right,
WMAC.
yes, yeah.
And you have to, based on the number of
Oh, yeah,
applications.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
But I think Jerry described it pretty well, that, there'll be our eyes and ears on the water, that we need
Yeah.
somebody to do that function.
no, they're a
The other
good
thing
group
is
to
I
be
s- I
doing
saw-
that, but we just have to make sure we take that into consideration when we change
Yeah.
things, Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right.
And I bumped into Peter Vielbig this morning here, and we talked a little bit about it. We talked about Daniel Lord Road. I did some work. It took me several hours to get all that together and all the Silver Beach properties. But Daniel Lord Road is the number one thing that we're going to focus in on, because we do have 12 to 15 stake and pulley moorings there, and they're all over the place. They need to be reconstituted. I'd like to standardize it with a 4x4 post, 6 foot, 2 in the ground, 4 feet above, with an eye bolt in there, number front and back, so you can read it, permanently put there, and all these moorings well established. And then when the gear comes in, simplify the gear in such a way that it's conducive for people to get their boats in and out, shellfishermen to do whatever they have to do to come to their area. So I think we can always improve upon it.
Right.
And we're going to work a little bit more closely on that particular spot and make it a priority prior to Memorial Day, hopefully to straighten that all out and make it more efficient.
Yeah, and I think that's it.
Okay. The only thing I would add to the list is we're going to be reviewing the fees.
Fees, that's right.
And make a point of it. So before I ask Peter Vilbig or John Needham if they have any comments, I just want to, again, remind everybody that this is, this BJ presented the town board concerns. So now we'll go to the WMAC and have them, respond to that, possibly add things we missed. And that's also why we brought Peter into, because Peter's on the Bay Constables are on the water all the time, so they might see something that we miss. So John, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't get my video to work. I'm on a different computer. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Fine, John.
Okay, so as you all know, I've been involved with the WMAC for 27 years, and we have three distinct harbors. We have over 800 moorings, and I'm being a little bit defensive. I'm trying to understand what you perceive as the shortcomings of what we've been doing over the past 30 some odd years.
Mostly it's the database, John, for me. I mean, that's where I started, to have a better, accurate database. And I feel like this process will really directly address that.
Yes, I agree that the mooring program is, I don't understand it. I haven't been part of it to a big extent. So I'm guessing it's underutilized.
Correct. And inaccurate in some instances. So if we're going to be able to enforce the code either as it exists, and again, then if we, make a little tweaks to it, the database is going to my mind, is a key part of that enforcement and fairness.
And John, I would say we're also just trying to address, things that haven't come before us before. I mean, we have, 2 significant transfer of commercial moorings. We have LLCs that own numerous waterfront properties that are entitled to, 3 moorings per household, per property. So that, we're just trying to address what we're doing and what we possibly need to do in the future.
No, I get that. I'm just trying to figure out how this new organization is going to address it any better than what we have now.
Mostly because I'm the WMAC clerk. I'm hoping, because she attends the meetings and has a very good knowledge of the process and GIS and the database, the online moorings database, that by the time, so there's a couple of things there. By the time an application comes to you, it's already been pre-vetted. So we're not saying, oh, is this guy a tax? Does he own property? Where is it? None of all that should be cleaned up before it even gets to you. So that your conversation is really the suitability of that mooring in that place versus other boats that are in that area. Yeah, I'm sort of trying to say that the clerical aspect of it would be pushed over to the clerk, or it should be, I think. And then you guys are doing a different sort of thought process, applying a different process. The other thing is, I think because the clerk's involved from the beginning, the database is better. Because she's the person who's shepherded the application through. And so when it gets entered into the database or confirmed really in this case, because a lot of the entry will be done prior to it getting to you, it'll be good information.
Sure.
One of the other things we talked about briefly yesterday with the chief, Jimmy and what was the actual the borings themselves? Maybe we, when we do renewals, we should, insist on an inspection of the gear and have it, certified or,
Right. And abandonment, we
Right.
don't have really a clear policy on abandonment. And then who would do that? Well, that to me is clearly a Bay Constable function, that once you don't have a mooring, you've given up your mooring for whatever reason, or it's been taken away. Then the fact that the gear has to be either passed on to the next person or removed, and not to have a junkyard on the bottom of our bays. So
We
it's-
also check that too.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, the removal, how do you do that, Dot?
We check out to find out if it's been sold to the next person that wants the mooring or whether they have had it removed.
Right.
So
Okay.
we do all this. It's not new.
Yeah,
It's
again,
not new.
but as BJ said, without, no disrespect, but to the public,
I heard
but
it.
they're telling you it's not there. I mean, that's why we need to, verify that it's not there.
Well,
Make it more
that's where the Bay Constables have to come in and talk to us.
Exactly. Yes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And,
Right.
and find out what they
That
need to
can
go
be
check
very
out.
easily arranged, no problem.
Right. So I just to kind of give a synopsis here, the WMAC worked on the dock ordinance to get that in place. And Jim felt, the next big thing we need to do is the moorings. So we're looking at the moorings as all encompassing, not just one portion of it,
Mhm.
but every, anything related to the moorings.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else, John?
No, I sent an email to Jim and BJ with some of my suggestions of changes, improvements we could make, shortcomings I see in the current system. And
So John, what we're hoping is, I think there's only one application before you for the next meeting, that this could be the topic of your next meeting.
so, yes, that'd be great. And I think that's another example of, we have one application. It's not a dire situation we're trying to deal with,
No,
Right.
in my
Right.
opinion.
no,
Right.
no.
Okay, thank you.
Peter, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, actually, I had a bit of a problem with getting online, but on the phone, I'm not sure whether it was mentioned about my idea of having a certification for when a person was issued a permit, they would get a piece of paper that their contractor would have to certify certain aspects of the mooring, that is, that it was in a proper location, a description of the gear, and then some kind of general verification that it was sufficient for the boat that the mooring was issued. This would put it incumbent on the permittee to be responsible for getting this paper. It wouldn't mean any more work for townspeople because they would have to provide it to the town. It would be part of the final application process. And that way we would get the depth of the water from them, the kind of gear they have, and the exact location where the contractor placed the mooring that we could use. So that was just an idea. I'm not sure whether that was mentioned or not. I'm sorry.
It wasn't mentioned, Peter, but it is on the flow chart. So,
Okay,
so
thank
yeah, I think we all here agree
Right.
with some more, with a little bit of fine tuning that will become a part of the process
Yep.
going forward.
That's all.
Okay.
Out of all the moorings inspected, there were about 22 that did not have their permit numbers, and that's the only real code violation you can spot from the water, other than the latitude and longitude, which is a little tricky. But so most of the moorings had the proper identification and we're in fairly good shape out of all those moorings this summer.
Okay, great. That's good.
Okay. John, I know you're as versed in Zoom as I am. Was that a thumbs up or a hand wanting to say something?
I thought it was a hands up, but I didn't pay much attention to it. My final comment, I think, is I hope we're not spending time and money trying to fix something that's not broken. Period.
I think if anything, we're just trying to make it as efficient as we can. And if it's not needed, we won't do it. So, that's why we're asking you to review it and, get back to us.
Yes, WMUC definitely will have some comments that hopefully will be helpful. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Okay, next on the list is Board of Ethics. We had a number of interviews last week. I think we have 2 today. And I think we decided once we get the candidates or once we have the Board of Ethics in place, then we'll sit down with them and go over the code and see what amendments we need to make to our code. It's very vague what we do. So we've been looking at what other towns do and other municipalities. So we see what amendments we need to make.
Yeah. Putting a lot of work into this. We've interviewed some superb candidates, and I'm hoping that the next 2 or 3 are just as good. I wrote down some notes based on this meeting I would like to share with everybody. First of all, definitions, conflict of interest, recusal, abstentions. We need that more clearly defined so that everybody, and not just defined, but disseminated to people so that we know the difference between those 3 terms. Second point was conflict of interest. No town employee shall have any interest, financial or otherwise, direct or indirect, or engage in any business or transaction or professional activity, or incur any obligation to in any nature, which is a substantial conflict with the proper discharge of his or her duties. So as town employees, we're going to take that obviously to heart and educate our town employees on that fact.
And just remind committee members are considering.
Yes, and by the way, town employees, any officer or employee of the town of Shelter Island, whether paid or unpaid, which would include the members of our committees. So that's something that I wanted to get across as well. Standards of behavior, we're going to look at A through H in the town code and take a look at those. We're additional penalties, we're going to take a look at that clause. Establishment of membership, we are debating right now whether we are going to have a total of 3 or 5 people, or perhaps something other number, depending on the quality of the individuals that we have. But we do have some outstanding candidates, and I think this is going to be a great committee. Define their powers. The Board of Ethics established hereunder shall render advisory opinions. They're not remembered. They're not making final judgments. They're advisory to the town employees on a written request. Upon request from the town board, make recommendations to the town board as to any amendments to this chapter. The opinion of the Board of Ethics shall be advisory and confidential. And in no event shall the identity of town employee be disclosed except for authorized persons and agencies. Such opinion shall be on the advice of counsel employed by the board, or if none, our town attorney. And then it talks about, rules and regulations, record keeping for that. We need to tighten that up a little bit. And the article number 3, which is on administration. But we're going to really take a look at the scope of work, what we are looking for. There's a piece in there also, I think, as a preventative on education. So rather than just be reactive and wait for somebody to fall through the cracks and commit an ethical violation, we surely would like to prevent these things from happening. How do you do that? By educating the people, both committee members and paid employees, on what is, what's ethical and what's unethical. Sometimes there's a fine line there, but again, we're going to try to go to the highest standard. Stephen, do you have anything else that you would like to say on this? Just
no, I'm from what I've witnessed and from what I've heard, we have great candidates, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
And what I would advise is we appoint the board, and then from there we create the new code or code changes.
Yes. Yes.
I think they should be part of the process.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but, no, this is exciting.
Yeah, I think that's important. What Stephen just mentioned, that, you know, the town board's not going to, the ethics board is going to help formulate the policy and the process. They're going to play a very vital role here in terms of putting that together. So,
Yeah, that's how the code is written.
yeah,
Right, that it is them.
yes.
And I don't want it to seem like I'm bashing the reporter, but in last week's editorial, it was implied that possibly town boards didn't use the ethics committee because they didn't want to hear what they had to say. And I'll be very honest, I didn't even know we had an ethics committee. The members of the ethics committee were appointed in the early 90s. And I think we can count on one hand how many times they've been asked to address anything.
Right.
So it's like everything else that, you know, we're being questioned on things, saying, well, you're doing that, but it's not what the town code says. So now that we acknowledge the ethics committee, we acknowledge the need for the ethics committee. So we're going to appoint and then go over the legislation.
It's not really the town
I-
board that calls on the ethics.
Right.
committee.
But I do agree with your nod there, Patrick, and I'll pick up on that, the need for an ethics committee has been apparent and now more so than ever. So we acknowledge that. And the fact that we didn't make use of them in the past to the degree that we needed to.
Well, we didn't, I'll disagree with that, Jim, because unless someone requested, it's not the town board's role to go to the Board of Ethics. It's to the people that feel there's a problem to go to it.
I have a slight difference of opinion that I think that we could have used them on in my 6 years here on a couple different occasions. I would also like to just use a little bit of a, kind of a sounding board,
Right.
when we're walking a fine line on something to get some feedback from them on whether we should go in this direction or not go in this direction. I think the education is welcomed. Again, I just think we're heading in the right direction. This is long overdue. Thank God we're doing it. And I think you're going to be very, very, very pleased with the people that are selected on this. These are wonderful, wonderful people that'll be on this committee.
Scott?
Oh, you finally realized it. I just want to state that that ethics board has been used more than you realize because it's supposed to be confidential to begin with. And nobody knows, but I have heard, and I did know of many cases that went before that board. And then the results of their decision would get back to somebody on the board and it would get followed through with. So everybody's saying it's never been used or hasn't been used much. It's been used. Okay,
Okay.
I want to get that straight. I
And I
mean,
just want,
they need somebody to defend themselves, you know?
thanks, Dottie.
Okay.
I also want to say that we've had 8 applicants. So when we say we've had a good number of applicants, we
Yeah,
have.
that's
It's a 3-person board and we've had 8 applicants for it. So it's, a decent response and,
Right.
we're
we're
still
back.
interviewing and
I think it
Still
interests
open.
people. It's an
It does,
interest. Yeah.
it does.
And we'll appoint 3 because that's what code says. And then the ethics committee can then decide whether or not they think an expanded board is necessary.
Good idea. Very good idea.
Okay. So we're doing the final interviews today, is that right?
Yeah.
So
far as I know.
hopefully, maybe by next Friday's
Yes.
meeting, we can have three
Yes.
appointments.
Yeah, we'll be doing some interviews this afternoon.
Okay. Next on the list is the increase to veterans exemptions. You want to walk us through this one, Pete?
I'll recuse myself out of the room. I don't-
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Being a veteran, I don't want to be part of the discussion, nor I want the appearance that I'm, let my 4 colleagues take this and we'll come back in when you finish.
Thanks, Jim. Um, Jim Preston, right?
Yes.
Jim Preston brought this up in late fall, early winter, I think. This idea that the state had raised the levels of a property tax exemption available to veterans, but it's up to the local municipality as to whether or not you want to raise them. It's actually also up to the school. I have it on my to-do list to get in touch with Superintendent Dolger to discuss that maybe the school should now to think about instituting a veterans exemption for the school tax as well. But right now it's just town. And there are 3 significant exemptions that this pertains to: a veteran of war, a veteran who has done combat, and a veteran who's disabled. And right now, if you're a veteran of wartime, not necessarily combat, you are allowed to take $54,000 off the value of your house. That's really how an exemption works. I'm simplifying it, but that's an easy way to understand it. And so then you pay taxes on the lower value by 54,000. I think we all can do the math on Shelter Island. The 54,000 is not giving away the store. It's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money to the person personally, in terms of a thank you for your service. And it's certainly not a lot. And let me just add, and I was going to say not a lot to the island as a whole. It's not that we don't collect the taxes. It's just that $54,000, let's say there was one veteran on the island who got an exemption of 54,000. Well, that value then, you can kind of think of it this way, would be spread again across all the rest of the properties. They will pick up that burden. So again, when we add it all up, it's not a big burden, but I'll get to that in a minute. So veteran of war the exemption would go in wartime would go from 54,000 to 75,000. A veteran who has combat experience, with his exemption her exemption will go from 36,000 to 50,000. And then finally, the maximum of a disabled vet. Now, disabled vets are complicated because it matters how your percentage of disability. So I won't go into those details. However, that maximum exemption would go from 180,000 to 250,000. Again, it's a small bit of help on Shelter Island because we're such a high value community, but I'll give you some firm examples here. So a wartime vet with combat experiences exemption will go from a savings in taxes, would go from $306 to $426. Probably meaningful for some people. I don't presume to say it's not. For a disabled maximally, who's ever clicking? I don't know if it's on Zoom or in the room, but the clicking. Anyway, the disabled is going from $613 to $850. So let's just talk about that on broad terms. It means a total shifting. If we took all of the veterans who have done wartime duty, that's 74 people, that's $1,500,000 and change of assessed value that would get shifted to the rest of the population. And again, 1,500,000 on I think it's 3 billion in value we have here. It's not a big number. It's not something that the rest of us would necessarily even feel, is my conclusion here. So I'm going to encourage us to do this, to increase the exemption to the maximum amount. And I would like to also the school to talk.
So was it new legislation that?
It actually has been a while. It was a while. I think with a bit of the turnover over in the assessor's office, you probably get one email on it. And if you don't act on it, it's just kind of gets lost in the sauce.
I think the effective date was 2016.
Yeah.
January 2nd, 2016.
So then this falls in May.
If this is the legislature.
Right, I was there. Then, oh well, got lost in my sauce. But Jim actually seemed to indicate it was new, but it wasn't. It's that we have never taken advantage of it.
I think so.
Yeah. So,
unless they did like an amendment and I just
Yeah.
have an old copy.
yeah, I haven't seen that. I mean, I think you're right, Meg. So something to think about, and maybe we can.
And next week, the assessors are going to be here.
Right,
Mhm.
and I think all that has been done in the past, because this didn't, Al Hammond requested an increase when I was just starting as an assessor. And I think all that needs to happen is the assessors need to write a letter to the town board requesting that this happen. And then it's just
Okay,
made so by a resolution,
by resolution.
Yeah. I think, right? You will check, Stephen?
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm sorry. It's in our code, so it'd have to be.
Oh, it is a
local law
code.
amendment.
Oh, all right. The
It'll
amount
be a
is,
public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think that would be better.
Definitely.
okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Dottie, did you want to say?
No, she was.
No, I
agreeing.
said
Oh.
definitely you need a public hearing on that.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the list is the Ram's Head Inn dock. This is the issue of the dock at the Ram's Head Inn. It's been an issue for many years. I know some people think that, maybe it's an issue now because the Ram's Head Inn was sold and there's a new owner, but this has been before the town board for a long time. The town board had decided last year that we were going to remove the dock, and that would be the cleanest way to handle this. since then, and we said we wouldn't remove it till after the season, so we didn't affect the Rams Head, their use of the dock with their moorings. But now is the time to do it. The town attorney came to us that if we're gonna do this, we need to get started on it. Stephen, I don't know if you want to give us a feel for what we're looking at to do.
Yeah, Christina, can you pull up that survey? Yeah, so this is basically very easy calculus legal. The subject doc, as you can see on the Hemmer survey dated October 15, 2010, shows that the dock is definitively on town property. Thus, if we allow the status quo of the Rams Head use without formally allowing them to do so for compensation, we violate Article 8, Section 1 of the New York State Constitution, which would be an unconstitutional gift. So for instance, if we said, sure, you could continue to use it, no harm, no foul, it was an error back in the day, and we don't charge them a fee, we don't enter into a license agreement or a lease agreement, that would be deemed an unconstitutional gift because they're getting a benefit from utilizing town property. So that's one reason why, we got to move on this. Number two, it's question of liability. That to me, it's, Bob and I and the town engineer took a ride out there yesterday to take a look at it. And to me, it's a recipe for disaster. There's no shoulder. When we were just standing there, vehicles were traveling at high rates of speed. I could just imagine just at night. So, my legal antennae went up and said, liability, liability, liability. The supervisor, I believe, checked with our insurance carrier. We do have liability coverage, but we don't have damage coverage. So again, the town residents would be on the hook if there was property damage in connection with anything over there. And then also, premiums could go up, and it just, again, to me, it's an attractive nuisance, and it's on our property, we're responsible. So we're left with no choice in my mind, is to demand that the owner of the dock remove it within 30 days. And in the interim, I'm recommending that we have the highway department fence it off so nobody could use it until, we come to some sort of resolution. It's my understanding that the new owner of the Rams Head is looking at a couple of options for new docks. But be that as it may, it's my advice that we move on this and move on it quickly.
For me, what's changed, because
Mhm.
there's a change here, and the change is parking. When it was a Rams Head dock, if you use the dock from the land side, let's just say, you could park at the Rams Head, up the hill. Now, that won't be possible anymore if it's not exclusively, well, not that it was ever really exclusive, but I'm saying parking now has really been eliminated. And so how do you use a dock if you can't park safely anywhere near there? I guess there's parking.
Well, it's
allowed.
twofold.
Yeah.
It's one, that definitely that there's no parking
There's no
there.
shoulder.
And
Yeah.
two, and Jack, I see Jack's on here, and he, agreed with us that it's dangerous to walk on the
Right.
shoulder.
Right.
So,
And there were complaints in the file I reviewed like 10 years ago regarding cars parked up and down
mhm.
and creating a dangerous condition. So
That's true.
again, plenty of time has been given to the owner of the dock, to, take either the dock down or put in a new dock application. And really the town needs to, take action immediately from my perspective.
One thing I would suggest, Jack, I know you called me yesterday. I didn't get home till 9:30 last night. I was here all day, and then I went over to school to do a school function. And this morning I was here at 8 o'clock in the morning, so I didn't have a chance to call you back. But we've been talking back and forth about different possibilities and options. So I don't know whether the supervisor or the town board would like to hear it, at this moment,
Yeah,
or
sure.
wait till the end of the meeting.
No.
But Jack or Andrea, if you have some type of response to what the town action is going to be, we would love to hear from you now. Thank you.
Hey guys, this is Jack Costello. I applied to have the dock, a new dock built in proximity to the Bennett dock. It's like towards the southern end of the property, and I received a DEC permit. And then it kind of got hung up in the Waterways Committee because they requested that I come up with several alternative areas and it kind of stagnated there. So it never came in front of the town council. But, I don't know who's eligible to really vote on this with the Waterways Committee. If I can suggest waiting on the removal of the dock until we get some clarity on where the dock will go. I think the two options we have spoke about is just basically moving this particular dock down to the east and getting it solidly on Ram's Head property, and or parallel to the Bennett dock. And I had staked it, and I hope that, I think Jim probably saw the staking that I actually marked where the dock was going to be. And, some of the Waterways Committee guys had, kind of said, that area is where we'd like to see it because it would disappear within that other dock line. And they just thought it might be a little bit less attractive just to shift the dock down, from its current location. So, like I said, it kind of stagnated at the waterways level once, I was asked to come up with alternative spots. I think.
Back just a couple of comments on that. I think the one thing about moving it just east of the present dock onto your property, the road still comes into play. I mean, you still have if you move it over 35, 40 feet, 50 feet, whatever, to get it on your property, people coming to that dock would still have to go on the road to get to the Ram's Head Inn. That's number one. Number two is when you repositioned it parallel with the Bennett dock over about whatever it was, 40 feet or so, closer to the gazebo area. I think the main objection, or the two objections that I remember from the WMAC meeting, was the length of the dock. And remember, it started out about 125. I think you were looking at 112. You wanted to get to a minimum of 48 inches, 4 feet of water. So that was a consideration. And the other thing was about the size of the floats. So I think the WMAC, John's on the line, so he could verify this. The one thing we were willing to do is to take it because it was going to have fairly heavy traffic, rather than be a 4 foot wide dock, make it 5 or 6 feet wide. But we still wanted to keep that dock within limits. So we wanted to make sure that we got you to the appropriate water level. Since that time, you and I have had discussions about the size of the boats that would be coming in there. And that the fact that the bigger the boat, the more draw it has to the boat. And could you operate in 48 inches of water at low tide? So that was something that we were talking about. And the other complication was the idea of oyster farming underneath the floats themselves. That was something that now that you have the Bennett dock, if you wanted to oyster farm someplace else, I don't know. I don't know how sympathetic the committee was to the need for this oyster farming right at that location. I get the desire to do so, but we're trying to accommodate people coming into that dock, unloading, going to dinner, getting back on a boat to go back to their larger boat. And that was kind of the thinking of the town board too. When we approved those 8 commercial moorings 3 weeks ago or a month ago, whenever it was the idea that somebody would come in, either there'd be somebody to go out, pick you up, bring you to the dock, people go to dinner, and then bring you back to the boat. Or if the boat was small enough and the tide was right, the boat would come in, unload the passengers, go out to one of the commercial moorings, hook up to the commercial moorings, read a paper. And when the people were finished with dinner, you'd get on the phone, call them, captain would come in, pick the passengers up, and off you would go. So those are the kind of things that we kind of envisioned for that dock. Am I wrong in anything that I said here, or
Can I interject a question
Yes,
here?
sure.
Excuse me, Jack. But the way we're talking, are we talking about ultimately winding up with 2 docks on the same property?
I think what we need to, let me
Or
jump
does
in
that
here.
one dock have to be moved now
I
over to
think-
Bennett?
I think what we need to do here is
That's a good
the
point.
WMAC advises the town board. I think the town board needs to tell them what our thoughts are on this dock application. And I'll start it off right now. My feeling is there's a dock on the Ram's Head property that the property next door has the right of way to use. Since the owner of the Ram's Head Inn bought the house next door, I think the right of way should go away. That should be the ram head in dock. And then if they want to dock on the new property, apply for that.
Mhm.
I mean, it's very convoluted, and I don't know legally if we can make that, we can do that. But I mean, to me, that's the common sense thing to do. There's a dock on the property, except the right of way goes to the house next door. So keep that dock for the ram's head in. And if she wants a private dock, put it on the private property. Because we don't want two docks on one property.
No, is that even allowed? I don't know if it's
Well,
allowed.
I don't know if the right of way, overrides anything.
And what's the water? Is Jack Costello still on?
It gets shallower, I think, further south you go in that area.
So
Maybe I'm
is there
wrong.
water at that dock that exists there?
The causeway dock has 6 feet of water at the end.
Right.
How about the Bennett dock?
The Bennett dock at the very end, it's, 3.5 to 4 feet. I have the hydrographic in front of me.
And that's only 60 feet, right, Jack? That
Yeah.
dock?
That,
Yeah, I just.
I think it's 65
So
feet
in
or
theory,
so.
you could extend it to the 100 feet.
It's a residential dock, not a
Yeah.
commercial dock.
Right,
But 100 is the max on a residential, right?
um,
So
Right.
you have some.
35 feet additional.
You could go out 35 more feet, maybe get the water you need.
So I think, Jack, we need to, as a board, discuss what parameters we would like the WMAC to look at for that dock.
Have you, just out of curiosity, and I'm remiss by not echoing Jerry's concern, because he echoed, and that was what I was going to tell you last night, but I didn't get home till late. What's your gut? I don't know, you don't want to go public on it. You probably want to talk to Andrea privately, but
All you asking for.
well,
And if I can interject, I know.
trying to pin you down.
I know,
Let's get this damn thing over with.
I know the owner's attorney is also online, Anton
Right.
Boravina.
Okay,
So I don't want them
Yeah.
really getting too far down this
right,
road.
okay,
And I think it's apples and oranges.
yes,
The apples have to do with this current dock.
Yeah.
And we have to make a
Right.
decision.
Good point.
About
Good
this
point.
current dock.
good point.
Right.
And I just want to remind everybody, we decided not to do anything with the dock till the season was over. So the restaurant could, make
Correct.
use of it as they were.
Right.
But now if we're going to change, we got to do it now.
Give them time to build.
Yeah.
If they're going to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
How would you like to proceed with this?
John, you have your hands up? Let me just put you, John Needham is. You got to unmute, John.
Okay, I was trying. Yeah, I think the majority of the WMAC approved of that location over next to the Bennett dock. We got a little bit hung up on the particulars of the design, being that, and somebody can tell me if I'm wrong, the original dock was primarily a dinghy dock, and this replacement dock certainly has provisions for being much more than a dinghy dock.
Yeah.
But that's somewhat out of the purview of the WMAC. That's a use issue, not a design issue.
Mhm.
That's one point.
But I think that's what we're trying to do, John, is come up with the parameters for you to review.
Yeah, and I don't think it was clear to the WMAC, John, at that meeting way back 3 months ago, that Andrea had bought the property, the Bennett property. I don't know if that was clear to us. So therefore, that kind of clouded the issue. We thought that was, still on a right of way and still part of the Bennett property. So that added a major wrinkle to it.
Yeah. And secondly or lastly, if there is a new dock constructed in that location, then that leaves the new dock and the Bennett dock. There is precedence in the past, and we did this with a resident down near South Ferry. Same thing, bought 2 lots, each of them had a dock on it, and he wanted to exceed what the code allowed for his main dock. And the final compromise was that he needed to remove his second dock, but he didn't need 2 docks. So that extra Bennett dock should go onto the centered on the Bennett property, or be removed completely if it's not going to be moved to the Bennett property, or the quote unquote Andrea's new property.
Gotcha.
The last thing I would want to say is that we just don't want the old dock to go indefinitely, so if we fence it off, post signs, and it's got to come down, it's got to come down. Now, when does it come down? Exactly 30 days? I think we're eager to have you do it. And because Jack, you had echoed to me, and I in turn pass that information on to my colleagues, that you were willing to do this and that you could use some of those materials, if you were going to in fact construct a new dock or, somehow use some of those materials. We're sympathetic to that, but we don't want it to go on indefinitely. That's.
I think we need to set we need to do this resolution. And then Jack, you can,
Yes.
ask the town attorney to extend it. I think we need to get it in place to start the calendar going.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll represent exactly what I received the DEC permit for to the
Yeah.
Waterways Committee. It's inside the pier line. It exceeds the code a little bit, and we'll have to go back to the original plan. I'll try to streamline that process as much as I can with John. And, generally, then when it reaches the town council, you guys take it under consideration. But now we're getting into a timing issue. If the causeway dock is going to be removed, I really need to come in there as soon as possible and build a new dock. And we're going to have to hammer out something that's acceptable to the Waterways Committee and the town council in an expedited fashion. So, I'm willing to do that. And I mean, I feel bad for Andrea because she bought a dock and now it's being taken away from her, however that happened is, nothing to do with me. And I feel really bad about the situation. I feel bad that I let it stagnate in the Waterways Committee for so long. But now it's evidently this 30-day thing I just heard about yesterday, and I was kind of shocked to hear that was going to happen, without the new dock being in already. So, I'll do my best to, move this along as quickly as possible.
The next WMAC is Monday.
I think we need to decide, do we want 2 docks on the one property? Do we want to put the second dock on the Bennett property? I think we need to charge the WMAC with something
give them
before
some
they.
direction. Yeah, most definitely. Let's hear from everybody.
Anton, did you want to say something?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, this is Anton Borovina. I am the attorney for Rams Head Inn. By the way, I do not, hold on, let me start video. Bear with me. Here you go. Thank you for allowing me to participate. I've been listening to this conversation. I must tell you, I'm surprised in several fronts. I met I can tell you the exact date, but this is about 6 weeks ago or so, for about 2 hours or so with the former town attorney, Bob DiStefano. And the purpose of that meeting was for me to examine the files and to also get a general assessment as to what the issues were that the town thought it had with respect to the dock. And what claims were being made, who had rights and interests. I thought we had a very frank and honest discussion. I really have to tell you, I am shocked to now hear that apparently there was a decision made some time ago that the current dock must be removed, that a decision was made to remove it. In fact, now what the board would like to do is now even apparently put barriers on the dock. And this is, by the way, within a few weeks before Rams Head Inn's business season starts. And may I say, in all due respect, which is also disappointing, I must tell you, is that an application, a pending application, for example, was made with respect to a dock, which has been stalled. I understand that there's no action taken on it, and meanwhile, we're meeting today with respect to a decision to close a dock. Just prior to the business season. Now, by the way, Steve kind of made a point about insurance and liability, and I certainly understand that. I mean, one immediate option for that one is to provide is for the Rams Head Inn to make the town a co-insured, so that it's legitimate, so that its interests are properly protected as it should be. And with respect to based upon my investigation and information that I have, the actual portion of the land where the dock is situated that has been the subject of tax levies. Real estate taxes, as I understand it, have been paid for many years with respect to that particular area of the property. So now to discover that not only real estate taxes are paid, but that the town, which has still to be looked into, might own the upland portion of it, all of a sudden owns that portion of the property that actually abuts the shore, when taxes have been paid upon on it it requires further look. I asked that the board, and I'm certainly willing to work with the current town attorney and with the board, that before the board issues any of these decisions, that it wait until we have a good understanding of how best to proceed. One, by the way, I think Mr. Colligan, I believe, had suggested, which I think is a very good one, is that the committee be reached out as to what the town board's position is, that the principals of Rams Head Inn, and of course myself, be in contact with the committee and with the board, and of course with the town attorney, so that we can with a degree of promptness get this matter resolved. It's just what's interesting disturbing to me actually is that this is now being done just prior to the season, prior to the business season. And when I think back, listening to the discussions that the board just had, when I think back with my discussions with Bob DiStefano, this was never once mentioned that there was either a prior decision, or that there was going to be a deadline coming up, or that there was going to be some action taken by the town board. I don't want to put Bob on the spot, but I'm just being very, very honest as to the kind of conversations that did take place. But I do understand from all this in terms of time, the passage of time. May I suggest this? Rams Head has been using this property for decades. It has been also using this particular dock for decades.
Mr. Burvine, I don't mean to cut you off, but this, and I'm not sure when you got involved in this with the Rams Head, but this has been an ongoing discussion, and the board acknowledged last summer that this dock was coming down and that we would leave it until the last year's season was over. So I'm not sure exactly, what you heard from Bob or what Bob said to you, but this dock was coming down. That was a decision the previous board made. And we said, but we will not do anything until the transfer of moorings was complete and her season last year was over.
And the reason we can substantiate that is that's what prompted Andrea to hire Mr. Costello to come in to put in an application for a new dock. That's what transpired.
And now
In
what
fact,
has changed is the purchase of the property.
So the purchase of the property.
Delays are not
yes,
our fault.
correct.
Well, as you can appreciate, the Rams Head derives its business from substantial portion of its business from those accessing that dock, and again, as they've been doing for decades. And I asked the board to delay making any kind of a decision today. That we meet with due diligence to get this resolved. I feel that it can be resolved frankly in various alternative ways that I think the board may be willing to accept. But to have the drastic measure, what I would say to the point of putting Rams Head in theory out of business, is to then shut down.
I'm not sure when you got involved, but both Jack Costello as contractor and Andrea Carter both acknowledged that site is dangerous, and that's why they were putting in for a new dock. So
okay. I'm sorry.
No. And also, Supervisor, I'd like to say that I think we can pass this. And if it becomes an undue hardship to remove it in the time period, an extension is always
right.
possible,
We need to get
probable.
it started.
But if we get this,
Right. I agree.
and then it gets everybody's attention.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Well,
I think we've
may
got to
say
go
this,
back to.
if I may, with what I just heard just now, when you say we should, undue hardship, I also heard a few minutes ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there? There's going to be some kind of a barrier placed on the dock. In other words, people will not be able to use it during this time. That's going to pose immediate hardship, don't you think?
but that was
Nobody
that was
uses
said
it
at the
this
end of
time of
last
year.
season.
Yeah.
That was said that last season would be the last season.
Yeah,
There's
so
no
I think we
news
gotta
here.
move on.
Yeah. So I think what we need to do is
Decide on whether we're
Yeah.
going with one or two docks. on the
Excuse me.
property.
Excuse me, may I raise my
Yep,
hand?
go ahead.
This is Andrea Carter. Hi, I don't know how to raise my hand properly on this Zoom call, but first of all, these meetings that you've had last season about the dock being removed, I was not a party to. And I was notified by Mr. DeStefano by phone, and that prompted an email and a letter from my attorney about the Open Meetings Act. So I wasn't involved in that conversation, but I do say this, I do believe I rightfully own the exclusive right to the use of that dock and that dock. However, despite believing that wholeheartedly, without evidence to the contrary, and because it is so crucial to the Ram's Head business, I did get with Jack Costello last season, and it expense, time, and labor, did all the things necessary to go to the DEC and file for a permit, which we did with dock drawing, and submitted it to the Waterways Committee. Much like the moorings matter, it stalled and people didn't really want to talk about it. I've done everything I can over here. I'm trying to participate. I'm trying to do all the things necessary to keep my business open. I felt threatened regarding that dock matter in last spring, and due to the threat, did make application. That application still hasn't even been voted on. So I am anxiously trying to participate, and would appreciate the support in allowing me to participate and have a dock approved before threatening my business by barricading and knocking one down. I am willing to pay for the insurance in the meantime that would be necessary to protect the town.
Andrea, I don't mean to cut you off, but the town attorney just reminded me that this isn't a public hearing. And we will consider everything that's been said, and we will do this as quickly as we can, but we need to move on.
Yeah.
Okay. John Needham, go ahead.
I know what it's saying.
Can you hear me okay?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, one thing, I'm sorry, you're trying to get off the subject, but as far as the WMHC review of the new dock design, one of the hangups we had was what was going to be the use of the dock. So in order, to review the design, you need to have some idea of how it's going to be used. Last year, there was advertising published of chartering a 40 some odd foot boat from the Ram's Head in dock, which is a use that we've never seen before. So in our review that's going to be upcoming, I'd like to have a clear statement from the management or ownership of the Ram's Head Inn as to what the use is going to be, definitively. What is the use of that dock going to be? So.
Okay.
I do think that was a key point, John, and I'm glad you made it because that definitely factored into the committee.
Okay, Anton, last comment. What do you got?
Quickly.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
And thank you for this opportunity. Let me just understand. So you're not making a decision today. It's going to be up to a town board meeting, not a work session. And I guess we'll be given an opportunity to be heard at that time.
Yes.
We're going forward with the resolution today. And if there's a hardship, you're more than welcome to contest that time frame. We're coming up with criteria for the dock application that the board would like to see in place before the WMAC has to act on it.
Well, okay, I respect that, but let me just say, then it seems to be all the more adjourn any kind of a decision until you've done certainly that. Adjourn it until, frankly, there's now been an opportunity for people to speak.
Anton, sorry to interrupt you. What we're doing today has nothing to do with the pending dock applications. What we're doing today has to do with the dock that's on town property.
Oh, I know.
All we're doing today is issuing a resolution giving you 30 days to remove the dock. In the interim, I think if Mr. Costello goes full steam ahead with pursuing those docks, that we're going to do everything in our power to make sure it's done in an expeditious manner. But that doesn't change the fact that, again, we have a liability issue that we have to cure. So I think what the plan is we have a work session. We're going to adjourn the work session and we're going to go into a special meeting today. And we're going to issue the resolution that's going to give you 30 days notice. And like and you know me, if you need time and it's a bona fide reason, I will bring that to the board and you can get more time. But this has been going on for over a decade and we really have to take an action. It's my advice to the board to do that. So that's where we are.
Okay. All right. I think we're going to move on.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Next on the agenda is just a little bit of housekeeping. Dottie, we got to figure out a way to be a little more. I'm sorry?
We were going to deal with that at the town board level.
No?
No, that was going to get, you're talking about,
Yeah.
yeah, that's an internal.
Oh, okay.
They just have to.
All
fix the
right. Never
calendar.
mind. Okay. So the next one on the list is the GASB 75. That has to do with the employee benefits.
Yep.
Amber.
That's me. Yes, I've been working with Barbara and we have a program that we've been using for years that calculates the report that's needed for GASB 75, OPEB, other post-employment benefits. It does a calculation for our liability. The auditors need it. We are bordering right on the edge of 100 employees. And once we tip over to the 100 employees, then we need to have a firm come in. So Barbara solicited written quotes from 3 companies. 2 responded. I double checked earlier. So Stephen, I did circle back to her. And
Okay, great.
so we did solicit 3 quotes and our procurement policy says if it's greater than $4,999, we need to have 3 written quotes as opposed to 2. We have 1 quote over 5,000 and 1 quote under 5,000. So we're right on the border there, but because she had solicited another one, Stephen, tell me if we're okay to accept one of these 2 then?
Well, we solicited a third, but haven't received.
Yeah, and I mean, the other 2 got back to us rather quickly.
Okay, I would
Wait,
wait.
Okay,
yes, just
okay, all
until
right.
We get that third back.
okay, and she can look to see if there's other companies that will
Yeah.
come back to us. But, okay, so then I will not disclose the prices on this one
Yeah. Good
until,
thinking.
until.
You already did. One was a little under, one was a little over.
And I did give exact dollar amounts. Okay, so hopefully by Friday we can have this because we just, time is of the essence so that
Right.
it takes some time for them to ramp up, especially because it's a new process. The other program was all internal and Barbara would enter the information into this program, but now the firm's going to come in and collect the information on all the employee information. The other post-employment benefits regard health insurance. So
Okay.
that's the benefit.
Right.
It's not pension, it's not
Mhm.
accrued
Okay.
vacation or anything like that. So
Okay.
that's all I have on that.
All right. Good. Thanks. Okay. We'll go around the room. Meg.
Yeah, hold on. So, 2 things. I'll start with the WAC meeting yesterday. The agenda was essentially talking about the Suffolk County Water Authority contract with the West Neck Water Service Area. And the consensus from the WAC was that they were in support of finalizing a lease agreement with Suffolk County Water Authority. They all expressed a degree of caution, urging the board to use the remaining brief extension of the 6 months to add appropriate mutually agreeable language to set a strong expectation of timely notification from Suffolk County Water Authority and collaborative consultation with the town on water supply system expansions. So they are in favor of the agreement, but still want us to make sure that we're going to have very open communication with Suffolk County Water Authority and that we'll have some say in how things move. And then we also had our comprehensive plan advisory committee meeting last night. So I apologize to anybody who attempted to log on using the link that was originally on our website because we did not use that link due to the Zoom bombing earlier in the day. So if you had emailed in, that was how we were giving out the link. But we had a very good meeting. We talked about the vision statement. made some very good progress. And we're going to have an extra meeting this month on the 14th, I believe. We're going to have an extra work session because what we're trying to do right now is kind of clean up and get back on track from what happened at the end of last year. And so we're going to try to add some extra meetings in to just kind of expedite this portion and kind of clean up and update all the things that have already been reviewed by the public, already had public comment, just to get back up to speed. So March 14th at 6:30, we're going to have an extra meeting. And then March 28th is is another meeting. So we're going to have 2 in March. Our
So
goal,
Meg, excuse me.
Yeah.
So you recorded it.
we did
So how do
record it,
people, if
yes.
they want to see the meeting?
So if you want to see the meeting, just email the town clerk and we'll get you the link to the meeting. And we'll also have the minutes posted as soon as they're done. But it's all available. All the documents that we discussed are online. They're on the website, so you can see them. And once we have another draft version up, we'll put that up for you to see as well. So it is all available. It's all recorded. You can get it from the clerk's office. Just email in. And the next thing that we're going to be working on is now that we have the census data, we're going to go and try to put together all the updated census data with all the historical data we have to figure out the picture of Shelter Island now as of 2022. We started this in 2020 and the original vision is of 2020 and there was a lot left open and hanging and undefined because we didn't have census back. But now that we have it, we can go ahead and do that analysis and really have a stronger picture of what we're looking at. And also we'll have a better picture of exactly what happened in the last 2 years, because with the pandemic, we had a surge in home sales, we had a surge in the school population, and then that changed once again. So we're going to have a very interesting analysis to do. And that's kind of our goal this month, is to kind of get that done. So we have a very solid picture of what happened. So we're also going to try to update some of the assessors data that wasn't quite available in 2020. So we have a lot of that now. So I think it's going to be a very interesting analysis, but we'll also post that when we have it ready.
Right. So March 14th, everybody. Just so you know, it'll be on the town
It'll be on,
calendar,
yeah.
but it's new news.
Yep. 14th and then the 28th.
Yeah.
6:30.
At 6:30. Yep. And the 28th, I think we were going to try to do hybrid. So we would be both here in the
Yeah.
boardroom and then people who needed to could Zoom in.
Good. Okay,
Yep, I'm good.
Amber?
West Neck Water has, the contract with Suffolk County Water Authority has been discussed. I'm still waiting to hear back from Joe Picorni and the finance team to discuss the specifics of how the rate structure and the access or the surcharge fee and things like that. So he did get back to me today saying people have been in and out with the holiday last week. So he hasn't forgotten me, and hopefully we'll get something done by the end of this week.
Have we reported to the public at large about an extension, or is that?
Oh, no, actually,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
I don't remember the details. So.
Yeah, Joe Fenora is on and he knows it best, but
Okay.
the executive summary is that we do have an extension while they are working on the contract because this is subject to a permissive referendum. That language to incorporate that time frame has to be incorporated into the contract. So it does give us a little bit more time. The extension, there's no additional cost to the district. It's just a time extension that's needed, and it will give us time to work out and go. You got more.
Yeah. I spoke to counsel for the Suffolk County Water Authority, and the status quo will be extended through this whole process, through us, the town board being authorized to sign the lease if we're going to go forward with that. And that would trigger the 30 days for the permissive referendum. So this status quo will go through that time period, and then whatever transition period there is after that. So they have agreed to do that.
Joe, do you want to add anything?
Nope.
Okay.
Sure.
And then the Community Housing Board met. I left those notes at home, but we are continuing our interviews today for the Community Housing Financing Advisory Board, which is the the separate committee that deals with the, ballot initiative with the 0.5%. So hopefully we can get that committee up to a working number by next Friday, and so that they can start to focus on, we really need to work on designing what the community housing plan will be in order for it to move forward to a ballot in November.
Stephen, do we come to a decision? Do we have to have the plan in place 60 days before the referendum?
Yeah.
Okay, so we really don't have to get moving on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You? Me? Did you just?
No, I
say-
said we. I said we.
Okay, just kidding. That's all that I have.
Okay. EJ?
No, you've heard from me enough.
Okay. Jim?
Okay. Deer and Tick, on my way back and forth, we haven't had a Deer and Tick committee meeting in a while because of the hunting season. But Bo Payne, I was there with one of the hunters and I stopped. The flyover has been delayed. The reason it's been delayed is strictly weather. Every time we've scheduled it, we've had a major weather event. You can't do the flyover without good weather. So it is going to happen. We're committed to that. It's an important piece of the puzzle to get us to the goal of reducing the herd by 50% as of the summer of 2022, which was a goal that was established 4 years ago by the Deer and Tick Committee. I will report that Meshuggah had a pretty good hunt. They used to hunt like the first and the second week, then they went first and third. Now they go first and fourth week of January's. And that's helpful because it improves the second week of hunting. And actually they only hunt Monday through Thursday, but they did get 85 deer just alone in Meshuggah Preserve itself. So that was pretty good news as far as that was concerned. In terms of Health and Wellness Alliance, we met last Friday. Supervisor wants me to work with getting the town's social worker job description done. It's completed. He wanted me to get 2 reports, one pre-COVID, one from 2021, based on a yearly report of exactly what that person has done. This is Lucille's position. And I got the pre-COVID one. She's just finishing up the 2021 yearly report. I should have it by the end of the week. The other thing I will do is I am going to make a personal visit to the Shelter Island Medical Center to talk to Dr. Potter. As you know, we are going to relocate rather than put her in the basement of the police headquarters. We're going to put her in the medical building where a social worker actually belongs. And that'll be a step in the right direction. So she's probably going to be in there 1 day a week. She only works 24 hours for a month. That's going to be the starting position. We're going to take a look at that. We'll evaluate that as we move forward. I hope to have a report well before to the town board, probably by late summer when we get towards budget season, on whether we keep with that 24 hours per month or to extend it. Obviously, COVID-19 has played a major role in mental health across the world. And surely in this community, we're no different. That's evident with police calls and stuff that Dr. Potter is seeing. I would like to commend Dr. Potter, who happens to be the town physician, for allowing this to happen and for our social worker to be moving in there. We're just waiting on final approval, and there's some, from Stony Brook University and Southampton hospitals to make that happen. The last thing was we met this morning with capital planning. Very quickly, I'll go over the notes. Had a good meeting. It lasted under an hour. The 4 feasibility studies. The first feasibility study is the Heights Treatment Plant and the fertigation at Goat Hill. We had Stella and Joe and I attended I wasn't there, but the Zoom meeting on February 24th. Peter Scully, as the Suffolk County deputy, was there. We had members of the TNC, Stony Brook University, Suffolk County, Green Tree Foundation, Nassau County, CTUC, PEP. Joyce Novak was there, who's in charge of the Peconic Estuary Partnership. Other members from Stony Brook University, Cameron Engineering, and other East End towns. In a nutshell, Stella presented a program. They were looking at 4 major programs that they're looking at the East End, but this was a reuse and irrigation public and private partnership, which you've heard about for the last 3 to 4 years, that about upgrading the treatment plant there, trying to eliminate the pipe and that's part of phase one. Phase two is the irrigation of the golf course and the possible recharge of the aquifer. The complication has been obviously, and I don't need to bear a broken record, but just to refresh everybody's memory, is that that study came to a halt because we need a secondary study to do water modeling to make sure that when we do any irrigation or recharge of the aquifer at Goat Hill, that we're not adversely affecting the wells along New York Avenue. So that has to take place. What are we trying to do? We're trying to find an extra $65,000 to get that funded. We funded the last study for $60,000 and $30,000 out of our operational budget, $30,000 out of a grant. I'll close by saying this. There are two phases. We looked at the Plan A. Plan A is doing phases 1 and 2, and Plan B was just doing phase 1, which would not involve any irrigation or recharge, simply the Heights treatment plant. And that has a lot to do with what the town's role would be in terms of moving forward. Joe Fenora mentioned to the supervisor, I think it's a good idea. I think he's mentioned it to Stella about having a similar presentation to the town board in the coming weeks so that she can, explain it a little bit more. Our number one goal has been, there's a lot of people very excited about that project, but it's like the movie said, show me the money. It's one of those kind of things. It's a very, very expensive project. And we need major sources of funding in order to move that forward. Without that major funding source, we cannot do what we want to do. Otherwise, we, as a town, would have to abandon the project. The Heights would have to go out on their own and do it on their own to take care of their treatment plant if they so desired. Fresh pond study, we're on pause. And we're on pause for one reason. Town board and the CPF need to look at options and have some discussions there. So fresh pond study is winding down. It's pretty much almost complete. There are two options and two techniques. One is long range, that it goes on forever. Another one is an environmental solution designed for approximately a 10-year period that basically takes fresh pond and corrects the problem. So again, we'll be looking at that. Those studies, by the way, are a fraction of the cost of what I just discussed. They're not a very big item. But again, until those discussions happen with the CPF, we're not going to move forward on that. The third project, of course, is the municipal wastewater treatment. The town supervisor, town engineer, town board members have been successfully looking at other options for the treatment and disposal of the effluent. That is something that's ongoing. I think the supervisor himself has put in lots of hours on this particular thing, along with Joe Fenora, trying to find the ideal spot closer to town, not involving the airfield, so people know that. The one thing that we were supposed to do, according to the timeline originally from Lombardo, was we were supposed to kind of end public input as of the end of February. That's impossible because until you know where the effluent is going, you have to continue to have that dialogue. So that will be continued through March and if need be into April. But we will seek additional input from the public eventually after a site has been selected. The last thing I will say on that is Jennifer Hingham, Massiano Hingham is looking into possible alternate funding, grant funding opportunities to help complement the operational budget to make that project happen. In terms of Real Point, I took pictures 4 weeks ago on January the 14th when they completed the dredging project, the annual dredging project on Real Point. It looked great. I went out exactly 4 weeks later, and about 30% of that sand, maybe more, 30% of that sand is back in the water and heading down towards the channel. It's an ongoing major problem. Every major storm that comes up the coast has a major impact on Real Point. So the good news is there now that I've been in touch with Mark Woolley, Congressman Zeldin's office, about the Army Corps of Engineers funding. The project is one of 4 major projects being done on Eastern Long Island. We also have an email from Ms. Oliver Crackler from the Army Corps of Engineers. Her office received funding to conduct a federal interest determination. It's called FID, F-I-D. a couple of months ago, and is using the report to help prepare a basis for the FID. We are especially interested in one, inlet backpacking, which we've been doing for the last several years, along with Suffolk County. And number two, a breakdown in the cost estimates for the recommended living shoreline. So that's something that we have a very rough sketch from John Cronin and from Jay Card back about 5 years ago on a cost analysis of what that project would cost. And it ran between $3 and $4 million to do that entire project. I have ways in which we can obviously make that a lot cheaper. The good thing about the Army Corps coming in, when they do their study, they're going to take the first coastal study, they're going to look at it, they're going to read through it, and they're going to do their own study and maybe enhance that study. The good news is, unlike with First Coastal, they're taking the entire report back to you, and the town is responsible, or the Peconic Estuary, the PLT, the Peconic Land Trust, is also, who actually owns that spit, would have to finance it. When the Army Corps comes in, they pick up about 65%, 70% of the cost. Does that mean we pick up the other 30 to 35? I don't think so, because based on the total amount, it's still a big bill. So what we would do is we would try to augment our portion of the cost with grant funding. So we realized we're not asking, let's say that I'll make up a number, but we decided to not only do the enhancement of the cobbles and the raising of the spine and the reestablishment of the east and western shorelines, but we go with a series of low groins like we have at Shell Beach, which will help. That is something that we're looking to get additional grant funding for. So it's an ongoing issue. In terms of Crescent Beach, trailers in production. Mr. Sherman, Brian got a phone call from the production company. We will have the trailer ready to go down to Crescent Beach by Memorial Day. The problem is, will we have the concrete slab in place for the trailer and for the pavilion? As you know, there's a pavilion at Wade's Beach. We're duplicating that pavilion down at Crescent Beach with the idea we'd have a sitting area, and with the new food truck going down in that close proximity, it'd be beautiful. You'd have the food truck, you'd have a couple of picnic tables, you'd have the gazebo, and you'd have the bathroom all in one location right there. So it'd work out really very, very nicely. We do have a new bid in, which is the new news on the, which would satisfy the grant requirement that we need to for that additional 30% that is necessary there. That's that MWBE requirement for the grant application. So we have satisfied that with the new bid person bidding that. We did not get a report on the multi-year capital plan. There is no really report to give on that. And number four, Brian had a medical appointment this morning for family. So that Shelter Island Community Center was not discussed. We were seeking an additional bid across the street for the stairway to have it ADA compliant, but hopefully in the not too distant future, the community center across the street will have a new front entrance with a new doorway, new overhang, and will meet ADA standards. Which brings me into number two, ADA compliance. Jim Reed and Joe commented, both Jim and Brian will be finalizing the RFP for the ADA compliance for police headquarters. We are first doing police headquarters. We do have money in the budget this year, $50,000, to be able to finance that engineering for that, to be able to come up with a plan for police headquarters. It may be phased in over 2 or 3 years. We'll take a look at that when it comes in. We will then move over to Justice Hall and do the same thing. The third thing was on the ferry terminals. Meetings have been held with both ferry companies, North and South, on mitigation measures. It's the number one goal of the Shelter Island mitigation plan is to concentrate on the ferries, the terminals, raise them up, look at the ramps, and try to mitigate the amount of flooding that happens when we get these extreme high tides in combination with storms. So we're working on that as we speak. The recycling roof at the center is finished, but we do now know that the roof can support solar panels. So as brought up this morning, I will contact Tim Pertel in the next couple of days, who runs the Green Options Committee. We'll task them with researching the options available for solar, whether it's on the roof or an alternate position at the recycling center. The solar panels will be designed to provide enough energy to run the recycling equipment right there and make it truly a recycling center. The last thing I had is the grant for the drivers. As you know, I announced last month, we got a $40,000 grant that we're looking to, it's 100% fundable, help our seniors shop. So that we're going to take advantage of that. That pays for the driver, by the way, to be able to do that thing. And the last thing was Jennifer's updates. I will get those and I will circulate them out. There's nothing really much new in there. And that basically is the report. Thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up to comments from the public. Jan, did you want to say something?
Remind them of the time.
No? Okay. Okay, before you speak, I'm just going to say, and it's not your fault because I have the list. We're trying very hard to have a sign-in sheet. The new procedure, just trying to.
And time limit.
Sometimes you don't know when
That's true.
Oh, I have a note from Stella. Please tell Jim that the work in the Greenport slip now is to raise and extend the ramp. Shelter Island to follow next off-season.
Okay, everybody hear that?
Yep.
Now, I asked that question this morning, remember? I asked the question of what was happening, and they said, no, it didn't have to do it, but apparently it does. Thank you, Stella.
But Jim, just to be clear, that's a self-initiated project by the North Ferry. It's not
Okay.
part of, so that is great.
That's-
I'm not denouncing that. That is great
Yep.
that they're undertaking.
Good point,
that work, and it's a credit to them.
Yeah. Thank you for that input, though, Stella. And thank you for the input of setting up those Zoom meetings, by the way.
Okay, Bob? 3 minutes.
I'll take less than that. All I want to do is thank Jim Colligan for the great work he's done on Real Point. I think I've been watching this for all the years and do appreciate your efforts on that, regardless of our past differences, whatever.
Thank you. There are no differences. Come on. I'll go out and buy you a beer.
All right, I'll take that. Is there going to be a special meeting on the Rams Head dock question this afternoon?
No. Oh, there's going to be a special meeting on the resolution to take the dock down, but to give 30 days notice to take the dock down.
Correct. During work sessions, you can't really take an action per se.
Mhm.
So that's why we created a special meeting now for right after this work session. We'll put the hat on for a town board meeting and we will just issue a resolution given the Rams have 30 days to remove the dock.
Would that be a public hearing or just simply a meeting?
It's not a public hearing, it's just a resolution. There'll be no public comment, it's just a.
You don't need a hearing for a resolution.
Okay, I was going to wait until that, but I'll make the comments now. And this may take more than 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
We'll see.
We'll see. Well, the first part didn't. On the Rams Head Inn, I was going to ask the town attorney a couple of questions. I know it's not a public hearing, but I understand, we haven't met and I'm not familiar with all of the background. And I just got in from New York, so I was watching this or listening to it in the car. But you had a conflict of interest situation. Okay, no, I didn't. I had a cat in the car meowing at me. So you have recused yourself from any things to do with a representation that you had with somebody who has property on the island?
I'm sorry.
Yes. No, I said, so the Chickwit Inn, for example, you did represent somebody who owns the Chickwit Inn, I guess Jack's Marine, and there's some agreement that I've read in the newspaper about an agreement that you have with the town that you wouldn't, you recuse yourself in situations.
What I said was, I will offer to recuse myself, and if any application comes in.
We can't hear what Stephen's saying.
Sorry. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, what I did say is that I will offer to recuse myself in any matter regarding the Soloviev business interest if there's an application that comes in front of any board that I'm advising. Yes.
Okay, and so then the Soliev group owns or as the beneficial owner of the Chickwit Inn, right?
Yes, they own that.
Okay, isn't the Chickwit Inn a direct competitor with the Rams Head Inn?
I don't know.
You don't know. Well, I think most people in the town would know. And I would think that you would have recused yourself before any discussion on the Rams Head
You're
docket.
pushing this one, Bob.
Yeah.
I'm not pushing
You're
anything.
reaching. This-
I'm not
I was
reaching.
going to give you another 3 minutes, to be honest with you. But
Okay.
you're reaching on that one.
All right, that's my
And we'll
first
save
point.
that for the ethics board.
That's the point. I don't think we can move forward on a resolution on the Rams Head Inn, especially.
We're moving forward with
My
the
second,
resolution to give them 30 days notice. That's what we're moving forward with.
and your town attorney tainted that resolution by I listened to him in the car earlier when he actually acted like he was a town board member, saying we've worked, this has gone on too long, he said, and I'm quoting him. Okay, he hasn't been around long enough he doesn't.
But it has been going on.
Would you let me finish my sentence? Please let me finish my sentence. So he said it's gone on too long, but he wasn't around to hear you say and the former town attorney say that you wouldn't tear the dock down until the new dock was approved. Now, the new dock's application came in like a week or two after you made that statement. The owner of the Rams Head Inn moved as fast as possible. As a matter of fact, the DEC has already approved that dock application. It's only the town has taken its time for good reason, because there's lots of questions about the dock. I'm not suggesting it shouldn't take time. But the whatever the name of the committee is that deals with docks, WMAC, is working on it, and it's been going on for a long time. And in light of your statement to the Rams Head Inn and the people who are customers of the Rams Head Inn, people like me who have an interest in the success of that operation, have been assured by the town that no decision would be made on tearing the dock down until a new application is considered. No, I'm not taking.
Forgetting. We said we would not take the dock down till the season was over. So we did not interfere with her business.
Hopefully the Shelter Island Reporter will do a fact check on what you just said. Why the Gazette?
They're a little more accurate, quite honestly.
Whoa. Okay. That's interesting. Okay. The second thing is the town attorney wasn't the town attorney.
Supervisor,
Yeah,
we incorporated new rules where each speaker gets 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I believe. the
I-
exact 3 minutes.
This isn't a public hearing.
Wait, you've interrupted me enough.
No, I gave you, you're up to about 6 minutes now.
3 minutes now.
We're done, Bob.
No,
This is not a public hearing.
All right.
Bob, this is why we had to put these rules in place.
no, I'm not
The word
disrupting
says-
anything.
Can I say one thing? Let's work.
I'm trying to say one thing.
Okay. As a one board member, we're going to try to expedite this as much as.
I'm trying to move forward. I've already,
And the other thing is, I just want to say to you that we would consider extending that 30-day period. If you got the whole conversation, I've been working with Jack. I've been trying to expedite this to the best of
Okay.
our ability. We're looking to work with people. I want to move in that
Good.
same direction.
glad to hear that.
Same
That's
spirit.
encouraging. That's encouraging.
Okay.
The other point and the final point I wanted to make was I don't think the town attorney is aware that, when you start a process like this, you have the owner of the Ram Head Inn taking the position. And I've heard this from the prior owner, and I haven't talked to the new owner about it, but the clear position of the prior owner of the Rams Head Inn was that there was adverse possession over that property where that dock is.
We're done.
No,
No such, you can't adverse possession.
I've already researched this.
Well,
You're not a lawyer. You have a lawyer. He knows, your lawyer knows that if it's used as a municipal function,
Have the gap.
he's trying to shut me off.
Well, we are shutting you up. We're done, Bob. Thank you.
If it's used as a municipal function, there's no adverse possession. But that property there was not used as a municipal function.
If I may, please send this to us all.
I will. I'll
In
send you,
email.
I will send you the case.
Just
Thank you very
email.
much.
That would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience want to speak? Okay, Julie, anything?
No, thanks.
I'm fine, thank you.
Because she reports. She just said, no, thank you.
Sir.
Well, you
sir,
aren't
if
recognized.
That we adopted new rules and procedures for governing meetings, and you're not supposed to be interrupting. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we signed the notice to go into, have all the town board members signed it.
Yeah.
We're going to a special meeting. We're going to go into a special meeting regarding the Rams Head Inn dock resolution. I will read the resolution. Whereas multiple surveys show that a dock owned and operated by the Rams Head Inn is in fact located on land owned by the town of Shelter Island. And whereas the Rams Head Inn has been advised of the improper location of the dock, it is therefore resolved that the town attorney is authorized and directed to draft and serve a letter upon the Rams Head Inn directing the dock be removed from town property within 30 days and advising that if the dock is not removed as directed, it will be removed by the town. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, everybody, we're done. We have an executive session for interviews and to talk about some litigation.